Hey everyone, so today's book review is going to be on a book called Day Shift by Charlaine Harris. I absolutely love Charlaine Harris. She is one of my favorite authors. I think I've read and listened to probably every single one of her books. She is the author of the Sookie Steakhouse series. If you are familiar with the Sookie Steakhouse series, you are familiar with True Blood because that's pretty much where it came from. Love True Blood. Big fan. Sad that it's over, but you know, good things must always come to an end. Well, not always. There are a lot of good things that last forever. So her two most recent books are, they're called A Novel of Midnight Texas. This is actually the first book, which is Midnight Crossroads. I got this one, there's a glare. I got this one at Barnes & Noble's in the audiobook. This is on CD. So I do recommend before you read Day Shift that you do read Midnight Crossroads. Midnight Crossroads is going to give you an insight to all the characters. Your main character, I guess, would be Manfred. And you actually know Manfred. Well, if you've read the Sookie Steakhouse series and you remember them, Manfred has been mentioned in that series. He's actually the grandson of a psychic who Sookie confided in one of the books. Sookie, if you don't know, was a telepath. She could read your mind. So yeah, he was briefly mentioned in that book. So I find it funny that a lot of her characters end up in each of her books. So, if you are a fan and you've read her books, you know what I mean. If you have not read any of her books, read them. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Like I said, I think I've read everything that she's written. I will link her website down below, as well as these two books I'm going to be talking about. But go check out all the books she has written. I'll also mention like maybe a few of my favorite series that she's written. So anyway, back to the book that we'll be talking about today is called Day Shift, and it is the second book to the Midnight Crossroads. Yeah, so this is the cover of Day Shift, and I got this one on Audible. So like I said, you kind of really need to read Midnight Crossroads before you read Day Shift just to get an insight of all the characters. Really briefly, they are both mysteries. So like I said, real quick, Midnight Crossroads is basically about Manfred moves into Midnight, Texas. That is the town. He just wanted to move somewhere quiet where he could be and work. He works pretty much from home. He is also a psychic like his grandmother. So he does readings via internet, via phone, but of course he can get a better reading of you if he is face to face. So he does do have clients that he'll go out and meet and things like that. But he moved into Midnight, Texas just to have like a nice, peaceful, quiet life where he can relax and enjoy his work. So of course he moves into this little town, and there's all sorts of little neighbors that are different. Everyone has their own little different thing about them. One of them is a witch. One of them is a vampire. One of them, I'm still not sure what she is exactly. So in Midnight Crossroads, one of the characters' girlfriends is found, well, she goes missing. So you just go through the path of them looking for her, and like I said, you get to know all the characters. So that's just a little briefing on Midnight Crossroads, and there is sort of like a little twist to the end of it. Go read it before you read Day Shift, if you want to, you know, but you'll need to know the characters before you get to Day Shift, because it's definitely a different story, but it's the same characters. So you want to I like to get acquainted with my characters. I like to know a little bit about them and where we're going and things like that. So in Day Shift, Manfred starts out where he goes to meet up with a client, a pretty faithful client that he's met up with several times. So he goes out of town to meet with her, and does a reading on her and everything, and she is found dead, like either the next day or a couple hours afterwards. Manfred is still in the hotel where he met her. Of course, he becomes a suspect, and the book, of course, goes into finding the killer. Every different sorts of suspects come along. I love that with Charlaine Harris, you don't quite know who it's going to be. You know it's just going to be one person, but you're not sure who that one person is going to be, and you know you're going to know this person. You get to know another of the characters from Midnight Crossroads a little bit better, which is Olivia. Olivia is actually the girlfriend of the vampire. You don't hear much about the vampire in Day Shift. You hear more about him in Midnight Crossroads. He's just the only vampire in that one town, and but he doesn't need your blood to exist. He needs your energy. So he like kind of sucks the energy out of you. So it's really interesting. Anyway, he's not really much in Day Shift, but Olivia is. So you get to know a little bit more about her. She's the character that I'm still not sure what she is. So anyway, she is there in the same town with Manfred while he's doing the reading on his client, and another couple ends up dead, but that kind of falls to the back. You don't really hear much about that mystery. It's mostly towards Manfred's client. I can't remember her name at this time, but in the meantime, back in Midnight, the town is getting like this hotel for like retirees or like older folks that just are by themselves and want to move into like a little community. So anyway, they kind of play a small little part into the picture. Well, the client that was murdered, her family comes in as well, and they suspect, well, more of the son suspects Manfred and sues him and all this stuff. So Manfred pretty much tries to clear his name throughout the whole book. Another interesting fact about this book, a little boy comes into town. He comes into town when he's really, really small, like 2 or 3 years old maybe, or maybe even 4. But every day he seems to look a little older. So he's sort of different as well, and he's staying with the preacher, which the preacher as well is different. All these little characters, I think except for one of the characters in Midnight, is different. So you get his little stories. There's a bunch of little stories going on. That's what I love about Charlaine Harris. It's not just like one storyline. You got this going on, you got that going on, but she makes it really clear, and it's very, you get it, you can understand it. So this little boy seems to be growing very quickly, so everybody's kind of taking turns taking care of him. But when he gets of age, the rumor goes around town that, I don't know if it's a rumor or someone kind of warns them maybe, there are a couple of guys that are there. They're angels, and they are actually a couple, and they pretty much kind of know everything that's going on in Midnight. So I think they're the ones that kind of warn everybody, you need to stay inside starting this night and for the next 3 nights come midnight. So you get that, and you're like, well, what's going on? You know, well, finally on one of the nights, you know, stuff happens, and you figure out what's going on with the little boy and why everybody's got to stay inside for these 3 nights, starting at like, I think it's at like right at sundown. So you get all these ideas in your head, like, what could this little boy be? Is he a vampire? What is he? So yeah, you got that little story going on. So it's just a really good book. I really enjoyed it from the start to beginning. Midnight Crossroads was a little bit slower for me. I guess it was more introducing you to the characters. Usually I really love that about a first book, but I just found that it was a little bit slower than Day Shift. Day Shift I was more into, and I got through it really quickly. Because so many things were happening. But anyway, back to this little home for the older folks. So the older folks come into play, and they're trying to help Manfred clear his name as well. And Olivia kind of steps in and tries to help too. And she kind of gets attached to the older people. So that's a great little story there. There is also a cat that talks in the book, which delighted the heck out of me. I just think he is so cute. He has a lisp, and he's fantastic. I think his name is Mr. something, like Mr. Snuggles or something like that. Something kind of silly. And he's like, when the narrator for these books are Susan Bennett, and she is fantastic. I've written her down as one of my favorite narrators from now on. I think she does these voices like you know who's speaking. I love that about a narrator. A narrator pretty much makes the audiobook. Some audiobooks I can get through because I like the story, but the narrator is not doing it for me. But when there's a good narrator, it just makes the book that much better. And that's how this is. Susan Bennett is fantastic, and she does the voice of the cat just to a T. I absolutely love it. I think his name is Mr. Snuggles or something like cute and cozy like that. And when he starts talking, he's like not Mr. Snuggles. So it's really cute. So yeah, it's really cute. It's a fun read. It's kind of like a cozy mystery. This is a true cozy mystery, and because all the characters are so much fun, they have just a little bit something different about them. And so of course, as always, Charlaine Harris's mysteries always end like you get a final feeling. There's no like, oh, what's gonna happen next. It's always a new story to the next book, but it definitely wants you to, you want to read more about these characters in this little town in Midnight, Texas. So so yeah, I hope I've done that book justice. I really enjoyed the book. I highly recommend it, but I definitely, if you want to read it, I definitely think you should try Midnight Crossroads first. Just so you, like I said, so you know the characters and know a little bit about them. This Midnight, Texas is just one little town, and there's just these little separate little characters that make up the town and just make the book. So yeah. So Manfred, like I said, is basically the main characters of these books, but you get pieces of all the other characters. I can't say enough how much I absolutely adored this book. So yeah, so I think that's all I have to say on it. I know I'm not the best reviewer, but I love books. I love to talk about them, and I don't know if you can tell, but when I'm excited and I really like a book, I kind of just ramble on about it. And I'm not sure if any of that was clear, but I really enjoyed the book, and if you read it, I hope you do too. In fact, if you do read it, please let me know either in the comments or let me know on Goodreads. I'll have my Goodreads account linked down below, as well as all my other social media sites. And I'll also put Charlaine Harris's website down in the description bar, as well as just some a few of my favorite series that she has done in the past. So so yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank y'all as always so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye y'all.